We've been talking about SMART goals in this presentation, and Asia and I are going to dive down a little bit deeper into how you can really incorporate that mindset and framework into strengthening your applications, but also just the operations of your nonprofit in general. So we're going to talk through what we've seen, but in the forum, maybe discuss think about your current objectives. Are they specific and measurable? Do they need to be refined? How do your outcomes align with funder priorities and how you communicate what your agency and mission tries to accomplish in those proposals? How do you have a framework where success can be clearly tracked? If you can come back 6 months, 12 months from when you put the application in and tell the funder, yes, I did achieve these goals, or might there be room for improvement on that? How do you tie the SMART goal framework to the budget in particular in terms of your activities and what that ask from a funder looks like and what it will help you unlock for your agency's activities? And what is one change that we can think about to improve your proposal's rigor and clarity and readability for funders? So a lot to cover, but how do you incorporate SMART goals when you're writing proposals for your nonprofit clients, Asia?
Yes, and this is one of my favorite sections of this course, actually, because SMART is an organic accountability methodology. That's how I see it when I'm working with partners, because I think that the needs of the community require us to address so many different things, but when you reframe that using the SMART methodology, it allows you to just cut out some unnecessary things that don't need to be addressed because it's just pulling at the heartstrings. But when it comes to funders, yes, they want the narrative, they want the storytelling for the grant writing process, but at the end of the day, they still want those quantifiable metrics that make sense to it, because that's just the nature of grant writing and grant funding. And so for that reason, it definitely helps mitigate anything outside of your program. So it gets into the nitty-gritty of program design. And so I find myself as a consultant sometimes with nonprofits where, yes, I'm helping them with grant writing, but we're also talking about ways to scale back their program that they're trying to do, but not in terms of removing it entirely. I think that's just a special touch I give as a consultant. It's not yet. It's not a no never. It's just a not yet, and let's implement milestones or different benchmarks to be able to, again, meet the grant requirements, but also leave the funder, a little curious about what more to do if you were to give us a little bit more money.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's how I see SMART in my work.
100%. I think if you can quantify, especially the financial aspect and like what you do to deliver on your organizational mission, the better you can communicate that to funders. We've talked about breaking down their dollars into like units of measurement, whether that's a meal, whether that's a family served. Thinking about that, I think that's especially powerful, where you're taking, like what you said, like taking that qualitative, pulling of the heartstrings kind of narrative to these are the dollars and cents, and this is why we're asking you for a $50,000 grant instead of a $20,000 grant, and this is why we can justify that. And I think it just overall helps with organizational planning, like you were saying, where if it costs on average, let's say $5 to serve one meal at a kitchen, you can really project what this service looks like, what your fundraising goals need to achieve in order to serve X number of folks, X number of meals any given year. And I think that becomes especially provocative for funders and persuasive. And like you said, I think it helps you kind of prioritize. There's only so much funding to go around, only so much funding that you can get in 1 year. So I think looking at what's really key and aligned with your mission and what you can achieve versus what you can maybe kick to funders and say, like, this is where our budget is at right now. If we became a $2 million organization instead of a $1.5 million organization, maybe we could expand into housing. Maybe we could expand into updating our pantry or having like a clothing bank. So I think it's good for you to just kind of structure that, know what's achievable now, and also what those reach goals are. Because I know in the nonprofit, we always want to do everything everywhere all at once, but this is a good way to put like some parameters on it and not burn out yourself or your staff.
Absolutely, because we also have to be mindful of those reporting requirements once you get the win, right? The grant writing process, as you're learning throughout this course, isn't necessarily just writing that proposal or preparing in terms of pre-application, but it's also maintaining that same momentum if you get the grant, right? And so you want to make sure that whatever you are putting out in terms of an output to your funder, in terms of why you deserve the money as a nonprofit, you got to make sure that you still have the capacity in the event that you get that win, right? So Another thing that I wanted to bring up during this reflection moment, as you're reflecting, you're documenting, sharing some support as well within the forum space we highly encourage with your fellow cohort members, is I love how you brought up budget. Because that's one of my favorite parts of the SMART model, is that S specific. Especially when we think about food insecurity in general, this allows for an opportunity if you found a supplier that you're working with or a vendor and it doesn't meet your budget goals. Using this SMART model then helps you, again, organically recalibrate and say, hey, maybe we need to start looking at other suppliers because the work still calls for what's needed.
Absolutely. I think putting it all together just helps, make your application more logical, and also just helps you think through your programming a little bit, more functionally as well. Not just this urge to fill this need, but also breaking it down. And we've said before in this space that nonprofits are just a business with a tax-free designation, but you still need to pay rent, you still need to pay your staff, you still need to pay for food, and putting it all together makes you seem just a little bit more organizationally mature to funders. They have a lot more confidence that you're going to use the funds they give you wisely and effectively to benefit your organization and the community that you ultimately serve. So reflect on that. Think through what you can improve with your current practices. Maybe take a look at some of your old applications, especially when it comes down to that budget breakdown and just some of the activities that you're communicating to funders. And think about how you can make that a little bit more smart, logical, and readable for the folks who are going to be reviewing your applications.